Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Chris Berger, and it's time for Berger Point. You know, we talk about getting paid as realtors. Well, how does that actually happen? And who's doing the paying? Well, generally, the first step is that the seller signs a contract with the listing agent, and it's generally, let's take, for example, 5% of the selling price. So at 5%, then at that point, the listing agent will offer the buying agent half of that commission, which would be 2.5%. Now, what happens is that today, the buyer's agent is asking the buyer to sign a buyer's contract. And he will put in that contract 2.5%, because what happened previously is that he called the listing agent and said, what is the commission being offered? And the listing agent said 2.5%. So now the buyer's agent is now assured of making 2.5% of the sale. So he has a contract. He will then give that to the buyer. So the buyer signs a contract, the seller signed a contract, and basically it's 5% of the sale going out. However, where does that money actually come from? Does it come from the seller? Does it come from the buyer? You know, when you think about it, the buyer makes an offer, the seller accepts it. Now, the buyer, of course, closes. The seller gets the money. So now he has these monies. Now they have to pay it out. So where did the money really come from? Well, the seller is obligated to pay that 5% to the listing agent, who in turn pays the 2.5% to the buyer's agent. But none of it would have happened unless the house is sold and the buyer paid either cash or you got a mortgage. So just keep that in mind. So buyers don't freak out if you got to sign a contract, because all that contract is guaranteeing is that they will get 2.5% from the listing side. And that's my point. Today I had a great afternoon being out with my grandchildren, and we walked around, got my steps in, and just a beautiful day here in New York. Have a great night, and that's my point.